Something big is happening behind the scenes in Washington, and it could impact millions of Americans living on Social Security, SSI, SSDI, VA, and SSA benefits. Congress is now pushing forward a second round of what they're calling August Express cards, direct financial relief payments that could go as high as $4,390 for qualified recipients. Yes, you heard that number right. But as always, the details matter, and the reality behind this proposal is far more complex than what you might catch in a headline or on social media. What's being talked about on the Hill right now isn't just another stimulus check or a temporary bump. This is being shaped as part of a broader emergency relief measure tied to inflation, rising healthcare costs, and ongoing economic pressure facing fixed-income Americans. These express cards aren't your typical benefit deposits. The proposal involves prepaid-style debit cards, designed to deliver one-time emergency assistance without the delays or complications of traditional direct deposit systems. But who qualifies? Will this actually pass in time for August? And is that $4,390 amount real or just political smoke? Here's what we know. The proposed package is tied to income thresholds, benefit type, and how recipients have filed in past years. People receiving SSI, SSDI, VA benefits, and those in the Social Security retirement system are being considered as top priority due to their vulnerability in today's economy. But while the word express sounds fast, nothing in Washington moves without red tape, and there's a lot of confusion about what's real, what's speculation, and what's already been approved. That's why in this video, we're cutting through the noise and giving you exactly what's real, what stage this proposal is in, who could realistically see this money, and how to prepare if you're one of the Americans who qualifies. This is the real August update. No clickbait, no false promises, just facts, straight from the sources you can trust. If you've been waiting for real financial help, you need to hear this. Now let's dig into the heart of what's really going on with these so-called August Express cards. First, we need to understand what triggered this sudden push for direct relief in the first place. It didn't come out of nowhere. Over the last several months, Congress has been feeling the pressure from advocacy groups, state officials, and even their own constituents, especially seniors who've been loudly voicing the fact that Social Security payments alone are no longer cutting it. The cost of rent, medication, food, gas, and basic utilities has climbed beyond what many retirees or people with disabilities can keep up with. Even with the earlier COLA increases in January, most people felt that bump get swallowed up by inflation within just a few weeks. That extra 3.2% disappeared faster than anyone expected. So lawmakers started quietly working on a proposal that would offer one-time emergency aid that bypasses the typical red tape and would be easier to distribute directly to those who need it most. The term Express Card refers to the idea of issuing this aid not through paper checks or even direct deposits, but through reloadable debit cards. These cards would be mailed out and preloaded with up to $4,390 for those who meet all the eligibility criteria. They're designed to be faster to use, easier to track, and harder to intercept or delay. Think of it like the economic impact payment cards from the early COVID relief era. Only this time, the focus is specifically on people who are currently receiving Social Security, SSI, SSDI, SSA retirement, and VA benefits. These are people already in the system, meaning the government has their information and can, in theory, move quickly. But the dollar amount, that potential $4,390, is what's getting the most attention, and understandably so. To be clear, not every recipient would qualify for the full $4,390. That number represents the upper limit, likely tied to income level, family size, and perhaps additional factors like disability status or housing cost burdens. Lawmakers are still debating the exact formula, but the intention is to give the most help to those in the tightest financial situations. It's not meant to be a blanket payment where everyone gets the same amount. And that's where a lot of the confusion online is coming from. People see the headline number, get their hopes up, and then feel disappointed when the details emerge. That's why it's so important to understand this as a proposed targeted relief strategy, not just a second stimulus check. Now let's talk about where this stands in Congress. As of the most recent updates, the proposal has made it through early committee discussion and has support from several key lawmakers, particularly those who sit on Social Security, Veterans Affairs, and Financial Services committees. They're framing this not as a luxury giveaway, but as a necessary emergency response for seniors and disabled Americans who are facing growing financial insecurity. There's bipartisan interest, which is rare these days, because both sides of the aisle know they've got aging populations in their districts, and people are struggling. However, the timeline is tight. In order for these express cards to go out by mid or late August, this needs to be voted on, passed, and processed in record time. And that's not easy in Washington, especially during an election year. What's helping move it forward faster than expected is the support from agencies like the SSA and VA. These departments have already signaled that they're ready to handle the logistics if the bill becomes law. They've done similar programs before. They know how to track benefit recipients and issue cards. In fact, much of the infrastructure from the pandemic-era stimulus card system is still in place and could be reactivated. That gives this proposal a better chance of being implemented quickly, unlike many other federal programs that would have to start from scratch. Now let's talk about what you can do to prepare, just in case this moves forward and you're eligible. First, if you haven't already created a My Social Security account, this is the time to do it. That online account is the fastest way to see your current benefits, your status, and any official messages from the SSA. If this program goes live, that's likely where you'll see confirmation first. Second, make sure your mailing address is up to date with both SSA and the USPS. Since these express cards are intended to be physically mailed, you don't want to risk it going to an old address or getting delayed because of a clerical error. The last thing anyone needs is their relief money sitting in someone else's mailbox. A lot of people are wondering whether this will affect their existing benefits. According to what's being proposed right now, these express cards would not count as taxable income and wouldn't affect benefit eligibility for SSI or Medicaid. That's a huge relief, especially for those in low-income programs where even a small shift in income can trigger a reduction in monthly aid. This one-time payment is being framed as disaster relief, not income, which means it would be treated like the previous stimulus payments, not counted against income thresholds or benefit limits. Of course, that language needs to be finalized in the legislation itself, but so far, that's how it's being written. Another question that's coming up a lot is, why now? Why August? And the answer has to do with both the economic reports that just came out and the congressional calendar. The summer months tend to bring a spike in utility bills, heat-related medical costs, and food prices, all of which hit seniors and disabled Americans the hardest. Plus, some recent data from the Bureau of Economic Analysis shows that low-income households are dipping further into savings, or worse, debt just to survive month to month. Lawmakers are seeing these numbers and realizing they can't ignore the pressure much longer. And if they don't act now, they'll likely be blamed later, especially as voters head to the polls. August is being targeted as the ideal time to push this through because it's before midterm chaos sets in and because it aligns with some key federal budget decisions. Still, we have to be realistic. Nothing is final until it's passed, signed, and processed. So as excited or hopeful as people are, we need to temper that with facts. This is a serious proposal with real momentum, but it's not law yet. That said, the political climate right now is more favorable to something like this than it has been in years. With inflation still squeezing seniors, with Medicare costs creeping up, and with housing affordability spiraling out of control, Congress knows it has to show results. And for once, it looks like both parties may be able to agree on at least this one thing: that America's most vulnerable citizens deserve real, meaningful help. So where do we go from here? We wait for the next round of votes, expected soon. And we keep checking official sources, like SSA.gov or IRS.gov, not just social media rumors or clickbait headlines. This is the time to be alert, not anxious. Because if this passes, and if you qualify, it could be the single biggest relief payment you've seen since the pandemic, and it could make a serious difference in your day-to-day life.